Today on the Social Investing Network, Target stock takes a tumble. The retail giant stock drops 25% in a day, and other stores like Walmart and Costco take a hit as well. We'll discuss why and what's next. And from the NFL to NFT, Dez Bryant shows off his newest NFT project at Permissionless. Stick around to see how Dez is connecting other athletes directly to their fans.
Plus, Nike sues StockX for selling counterfeit kicks. So just how much trouble is StockX in? It's Thursday, May 19th. Subscribe below, hit the notification bell. Now let's get into it. Thursday, how are you doing, Zaid? How are you feeling today?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Good. Well, let's get into our first story and headline of the day. Target stock crashed by 25%. Why did this happen? So the company said that its quarterly profits got hit by supply chain troubles, higher fuel costs, and lower than expected sales of discretionary merchandise. Target did state that the top line grew modestly, and Target CEO Brian Cornell pointed to the higher spending levels that Target went up against a year ago as Americans had the stimulus and different things of nature come into their savings account. Now, there's a lot been going on with retailers during this earnings season, and they're giving key insight to how consumers are spending and where their money is going, and as well as the health of the economy. Retailers seem to be signaling that consumers are more sensitive in the areas they're spending their dollars, Zaid. So Target crashed, other retailers have also, pulled back since their numbers came out. What do we think is actually happening right now, Zaid?
I mean, look, when the reports first came out and I saw like the crash of the retail stocks, I was kind of like, oh my God, like is this like what's going on here? Yeah. But when you dive into the numbers a little bit, they didn't miss on revenue. And to me, the key point here is that the fact that consumers are still spending money, they're just spending it at different products than these retailers had planned for. So these retailers had stocked up on discretionary stuff that you were mentioning, TVs, patio furniture, things like that. People aren't buying that kind of stuff anymore. Instead, they're buying things like luggages and things like that because they're trying to go back to a normal world and kind of moving on past the pandemic. So these guys did a really poor job of managing their inventory, which is what led to lower profits. On top of that, I mean, we've all felt the pain at the pumps. Higher gas prices obviously leads to higher transportation costs and a higher labor cost too. It's a tight labor market. So all these things are playing into less profits for these companies. But to me, the good thing is at least consumer demand seems to be somewhat consistent. That if they missed on revenue, I'd be a lot more nervous. But we saw across the board, these guys, all these retailers were saying very, very similar things. They're dealing with higher costs, and not necessarily a slowdown of consumer demand.
Yeah, exactly. So they are dealing with those higher costs, and the consumer demand, while not slowing down, significantly, it is kind of looking like it's growing more modestly, if you will. And I think a lot of that is because if we're dealing with inflation, obviously retailers are seeing higher costs, so are consumers, and consumers are seeing higher costs, and consumers are being more careful on where they spend their dollars. They're starting to take a harder look, like, do I actually need this item? This item is more for fun, or is this something that I really will use and keep for longer term? That's why you're still seeing, decor and home decor things are actually still selling, but discretionary items like TVs and whatnot not flying off the shelves. So that plays into those inventory levels, which could have potentially be marked down later. So I do think in the near term, retailers are signaling something's coming, right? This consumer isn't spending the way they used to, but in the long term, places like Target, Walmart, these are still solid businesses that are going to be staples in our economy that will eventually, potentially rebound from this.
Yeah, and Target and Walmart, while they are similar, there's also they're different in some key ways as well, right? Like Walmart has a higher percentage of their sales be food, which is non-discretionary. You have to buy food no matter what. Whereas Target has less reliant on food. So, and to me, I think the key point was Home Depot. Home Depot had their earnings a couple of days ago, and they were also saying the same thing. Where like people are still buying things, and so I think once the supply chain stuff and once they can better anticipate consumer demand and where they want to spend their money, I'm hoping all this stuff gets sorted out. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball here, and I'm not trying to make any predictions, but I'm not as pessimistic after diving into the details.
That's a fair point.
Alrighty, moving on to the next thing. From the NFL to NFTs, Dez Bryant is all in on the NFT space. Recently, Dez was at Permissionless, which is a crypto conference down in South Florida, showing off his new collaboration. Let's dive into the details in today's version of Fresh Mints.
Yes, yes.
So Dez, former Dallas Cowboys receiver, he's been involved with the NFT space for a while, and he was at Permissionless, and he was showing off his latest Juggernaut collaboration, part of the Juggernaut NFT project that he launched a few months ago. They were showing off the piece at the conference. And Dez also launched a website called Personal Corner, which is a marketplace for athletes to sell their NFTs. This is the most interesting part. They sell their NFTs that change in value based on the athlete's performance.
That's awesome.
I don't know how it works, to be honest. I tried to get some more detail. I think they're kind of still building it out.
Yeah.
They have a few football players on there right now, Von Miller being the most famous one right now.
Yeah.
But Delano, like, to me, I'm a big sports fan. You're a big sports fan.
Yeah.
If they can really figure this out, like, this might be another good application of NFTs in sports.
100%. If we're going talking about Personal Corner, I love that cool feature that allows, the NFT to change based on the player's stats. That's a really cool feature that I haven't really seen anywhere else. And yes, speaking of Dez Bryant specifically and what he's doing in the space, I think it's really cool to see athletes, whether current or retired, taking their passions from sports to a new arena and try to do something that, definitely will give more power to the players. Now, it's hard to get full adoption or mass adoption, I should say, when you're building something new if you don't have that direct connection to whether it's the licensing of the NFL or something of that nature. Maybe they do have that, but see more adoption, you have to have that direct connection where you see a lot of people on the platform. But I think it would be interesting if the athlete starts to go downwards and look at like college players and high school players, maybe with the name, image, and likeness rules, which allows for amateur athletes to now earn money from their name, image, and likeness, still be eligible to be in the NCAA, which wasn't a thing prior to this new rule. Maybe dealing with the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, or dealing with a big high school league or high school state, you could potentially do something there, which could be really, really interesting because you could get that mass adoption possibly.
Yeah, and again, also there's some utility behind some of these projects as well. I think Dez's project specifically, some of the holders were able to do meet and greets with them and things like that. Yes. So there is some utility built in. It's a way for these athletes to connect with their fans directly. And I think what Dez is doing is very interesting, especially if this Personal Corner stuff can take off. Because I've always been hearing about these different startups or apps that are always kind of promising something similar of like, oh, you can invest in an athlete's stock, Or if you hear these sports podcasts, they're always like, oh yeah, I'm buying stock in that athlete. Well, now you could potentially be able to legitimately buy like an NFT in that athlete, and the value could appreciate based on how they perform. A lot to figure out in the details, so I'm still waiting to see how they do it. Hopefully they have all that stuff ironed out before the season starts. But, as someone who's into crypto myself, as someone who's a big sports fan, this definitely got my interest peaked.
Definitely got my interest. And also the fact that he has his own collection too. I think that's really cool. Loving to see athletes step out and be forward thinkers in this space.
Totally. Well, we have moving on to our next segment. The online sneaker marketplace StockX has seen a meteoric rise. They were valued at $3.8 billion last year, according to CNBC. But recently, things haven't been so good for them. They got sued by Nike. So we're going to go into the details with producer Danny on So That Happened.
The economy's bad when people are worried about Walmart. Oh boy. So this is crazy, guys. Nike is suing StockX for allegedly selling counterfeit shoes, reports Fast Company. Now, a little bit of background here. I didn't really know this, but counterfeiting is a big issue for manufacturers, and they combat this actually somewhat regularly. Leah Greenwald, she's a law professor, says that manufacturers buy their own products from retailers all the time. That's normal. That's just part of doing business. But suing them when they're fake, this is completely unprecedented. So a little background on StockX. I wasn't really sure about the mechanics of it. It's not a Wild West marketplace. It's not an eBay. It's not a Craigslist. StockX has a verification process. They tell people, look, these shoes are legit. They're not counterfeit. You can trust these shoes. Fast Company reports that, quote, if an investigation found that StockX was knowingly selling counterfeit goods, it'd have to pay triple the damages of a standard counterfeiting claim. So this is just crazy to me. I mean, I don't know anything about sneakers, but I didn't know there'd be so much drama from shoes.
Oh man, I'm not a sneakerhead myself, but I do know some people that are sneakerheads. They take this stuff really, really seriously.
I'm not a sneakerhead, but I know that people take it very, very seriously. It's a real deal.
No surprise, Twitter is a mix of serious reactions and funny ones. I got some really funny tweets here. Jojo writes, I knew y'all was walking around with them Air Gordons. Hilarious.
Oh, man.
Desmond wrote, those dunks y'all buying, I think those might be layups instead. And I don't know, knowing nothing about sneakers, this user was angry because their rainbow shoes allegedly given away by StockX were fake. I kind of felt like, come on, man, you fell for that. I could tell that's not real. What is that? It looks like it was tie-dyed by one of those guys on Venice Beach. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't feel much sympathy for that guy. That's come on.
So, yeah. Go ahead, Danny.
No, just this whole thing is, shoes real, shoes fake. These are deep questions. So what do you think, Delano?
This is very interesting. So that Fast Company report that you mentioned, there's something that in that report that's called the third shift. So this is when factories that already made a lot of shoes, maybe they have a deal with Nike to make a certain amount, but they'll keep making them because they have the same materials, the same exact shoe. So technically, these are unauthorized because they were maybe given a directive to only make a certain amount, but they still make more because they have the ability to do so. So it's possibly that these shoes are actually 100% identical to real Nikes, right? Using the same materials and everything, but not legitimate because Nike said so. They only gave a directive for a certain amount. And as you mentioned, that verification process, StockX, it could fool someone if they're using the same materials if they go through that verification process. There's no way they'll be able to tell unless they actually know how much shoes were supposed to be in the marketplace in the first place, Danny.
This is blowing my mind. I never thought Hype Beast would have me asking questions like, what is the nature of a shoe? Is a Nike a platonic ideal? Is it a physical construct? This is blowing my mind.
Delano, do you know how they can tell if it's like a third shift kind of shoe? Like if it's the exact same material, I mean, I wonder how they can possibly tell.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Like StockX, it's been getting past, I believe, the authentication process. It's really, really hard to tell, even like as for experts. So it's an interesting thing, and we're gonna have to see how the litigation goes forward because there's so many nuances in this story, Zaid.
Yeah, I think we're a few years out from VIN numbers on shoes. It's like inscribed right in there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we won't be wearing shoes much longer. We're doing NFTs of shoes, just moving forward. It'll all just be everything will be NFTs.
I mean, guys, look, I couldn't miss this opportunity. I figure if shoes are selling at sky high prices, I'd like to get in on the action. So I kind of wanted to pitch some shoes I've been working on to you guys. I think you guys might be interested. I know you dabble in collectibles, NFTs, things of that nature. So here's some new shoes I'm presenting. Okay. Now, as you guys know, hybrid cars change the world. This is a game changer. We love the hybrid car. I'm presenting the first hybrid shoe. Okay. Presenting the flip-flop sneaker. We call this the sneak flop. Okay. It's kind of like a mullet, Casual in the front, business in the back.
A piece of paper.
I'm in.
What are we selling these for?
Yeah.
Well, this one goes for 17 ETH. So no, sorry, it's not
bargain.
Really your market sector there. Now, guys, I'm a runner. I don't know if you know about this problem. Running shoes, they wear out. It's a shoe. What can you do? You're going to go to a cobbler. What is this? The 1700s? That's ridiculous. So we've developed these. Okay, this will help waterproofing, durability. This is the Duct shoe. Okay, the name is a work in progress. You could just tape this thing right up yourself. Keep the shoe together.
I feel like that's like legit, dude. That's
they remind me of those T-Max that back in the day they were like all blue. Like...
Oh yeah, dude, I love those shoes.
Zaid, for you, just because you like it, I'll give it to you for half ETH. Let me know.
Well, that's I'm in, dude.
It wouldn't be your worst investment. Now, this is the most ridiculous shoe of all. I actually wear these. This is just a Hoka, so it's just ridiculous. I got feet problems.
I like it.
So What do you guys think? Are you sneakerheads? Are you hype beast, shoe investors? Are you part of the footwear financialized? Are you going to buy? I mean, Zay, this seems right up your alley, man.
I'm not a sneakerhead. I might become a digital sneakerhead. We'll see. But I am very interested to learn more about what's up with these like third shift shoes and what happens between this lawsuit between StockX and Nike. But yeah, man, this stuff it's a big market, man. Like the sneaker market is huge.
It's a crazy thing.
It is a crazy thing. It's such an interesting market. I want to learn more about it just because there's just so much going on in this space, but it's a really niche game to get into for collectors.
I'd be curious to learn, like, if we find that there are these counterfeit third shift shoes, right? They're identical. They're made by the same very machine that made the previous ones, but Nike's like, oh, those aren't real. How much does that tank the value of the shoe? So interesting. You know, it's physically the same thing.
Yeah,
that's a good point, because if you don't know the exact amount that was supposed to be supplied, then how do you go back and say, all right, if it looks the same, it's really authenticated, how do you go back and say, all right, this isn't real? We have to take back the price. That's a big crux of this whole issue, honestly.
That's why we need NFTs.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm calling it here, guys. I think gloves are next. Like, let's go. Every accessory, let's start collecting.
We're gonna have glove heads. We're gonna have people that just collect gloves.
All right, guys, wrapping up here on a quick one. I don't know if you saw this. Footage recently was released by Meta depicting their new headset. And I was just shocked, guys, because, a major company like Meta, I can't believe they can make such a huge mistake. You want to make your products emphasize what people actually like. So we fixed it. Here we go. There we go. So just a misstep by Meta. And that's it for So That Happened. Great seeing you guys as always.
All right. Thanks so much, Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
See you next week. Oh, man. I always love having Danny on the show.
Of course.
Well, anyways, that does it for another fantastic show. Guys, we do this every day, Monday through Friday. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and tune in tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
We out. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and be sure to tune in tomorrow.